Hello, welcome to the Alone Show. I'm your host, John Alone. In this episode, no regulars, because reasons, as always. As for our guest, she is somewhere from Los Angeles. She is a director and professor of Latin American Studies, also an author of Thanks for Life, a biography of Violeta Parra, and also a musician, and possibly a lot more, but we'll get into that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you Erika Verba.
Well, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to share a little bit about Violeta Parra and my work. Yes.
Yes, me too. So, how's life?
Life is good. I'm visiting a friend. I'm in the Northwest, which is absolutely stunningly beautiful, and it's the end of fall, and we can walk to the Puget Sound from the house where I'm staying, and so life is good. How are you?
Going great.
Glad to hear that. Where are you?
Alright, so I'm from Manchester.
In England?
Yes, in England.
We have in New Hampshire. I'm sure we have more there. So so how are things in Manchester?
Well, it's getting a bit breezy and chilly. Well, it's alright, I guess. At least it's not cloudy like it usually is.
Uh-huh. So that's good.
Yes.
Yeah, not crowded where I am either.
Yes, that too.
Yes.
Is there anything you're working on or up to recently?
Yes. I've just finished a book, and it's kind of my life's project, I guess you could call it. And I've written this biography of a really remarkable musician and artist named Violeta Parra, and she's from Chile, so kind of that long, skinny country on the left-hand side, the west side of South America. And she's really well known, I think, throughout Latin America. And my goal is to make sure that she's known also, with people that speak English. I guess the English-speaking world. So where you are qualifies, and where I am qualifies as well, I guess. She was this amazing songwriter. She lived from 1917 to 1967, and she's she's interesting woman. She comes from the south of Chile, from this poor family. She's one of 10 kids, and she ends up writing songs that have been, her songs have been recorded by, folk singers like Joan Baez, but also Placido Domingo, who is one of the three tenors, and then Yo-Yo Ma, when he did a beautiful, beautiful collection of music under COVID that was supposed to be soothing, and he recorded one of her songs as well. And then Casey Musgrave, who I guess is country western, I know she's super famous. She's recorded her song. And so she's this, this kind of obscure artist who, it turns out, the world is singing her music right now, even to today. And then also she was a visual artist. She's one of those people that just nothing was impossible to her. So if she saw someone else doing something, she'd say, well, I'm going to try that. And she became a visual artist like in the last 6 years of her life, and became the first Latin American artist to have a solo show in this museum in France called the Museum of Decorative Arts. But the important thing is it's housed in the Louvre Palace. So it's like this woman from a tiny little town in the south of Chile is having her tapestries shown in this palatial, the most famous museum in the world, probably the Louvre Museum in Paris. And so she's really interesting, and I think people should know her story and her sort of how she managed to do this. And that's kind of what the biography tries to figure out, is how does this woman from the south of Chile end up with all of this incredible creative activity and sort of the fruit of her activity being so still alive and resonating to today. That's the puzzle I try to answer in the book. And I really did spend a lot of time, how do I explain this? I feel like it's a quilt. It's hard to write about someone else's life. It's hard sometimes to try to figure out our own lives, let alone someone else's. So it was, I think, fun to write as well because of that, because it's like, there's, I don't know, the joy of problem solving. Like there's this thing that doesn't fit, and then you try to figure out how it does fit, and then then you get to another layer of understanding, I think. So that's what I've been up to. I would say for about honestly, probably 40 years. So yes, I've been doing this for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Thank you. I kind of started in college, and I've been out of college for a long time. So yeah.
All right then. Are there any jobs or opportunities you haven't done yet that you would like to do someday?
That's such a funny and good question, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on the air or not, but I was kind of looking at my working life. And I was a professional musician for 10 years. I was a grad student for 10 years, which is probably, embarrassing, but I was. And then I was a professor at this university called Cal State Dominguez Hills for 10 years, and then I'm now a director of Latin American Studies at a different university. I'm at Cal State LA, and it's been 10 years. And I'm actually really wondering what I'm going to do next. Yeah, I think I want to do something that doesn't take 40 years to come to fruition. I want to do something where, like, at the end of the day, I know exactly what I did. I think probably working with people because I do like people a lot. And so I've been thinking, I don't know exactly. Sometimes I think I want to do conflict resolution because the world is so full of conflict right now as we speak. And it seems like being in a room with people and getting them to talk to each other would be worthwhile. But I really don't even know what that's called, like, or how one learns how to do it, so that's my next goal in life is to figure out what I'm going to do next. So you asked at a good time, and now everyone at work knows that I'm leaving. So there you go. What can you do? Well, everyone at work who listens to your podcast now knows that I'm leaving, but I've been telling people anyway, so it's not like I'm
Fair
keeping
enough,
it a
yes.
secret. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
So I think that's what's next.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
You sure are.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of musicians on your show?
Well, yes, I had a handful of musicians. I had one like a couple of weeks ago, and he's a great piano player. He's done great stuff. I can't remember from the top of my head, but he's doing pretty well for himself. That's what's important.
Oh, I think if we can find what makes us, what fills us, then we're probably doing our part in the world as best we can,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the passion that's important.
Yep. I would say, in my case, passion and a little bit bordering on obsession, but I'm not even apologizing because I don't think the biography that I wrote, this Thanks to Life, I don't think that it would have, I think I'm very, I guess I'm going to sound conceited. I'm proud of this book, and I don't think I would be quite so proud if I had to follow every single tiny little trail, she misses a plane and that sort of changes everything because she's going to come back to Chile and it's going to be this triumphant return from Europe, right? The Chilean artist who's from a little country conquers Paris and she comes back and she misses the flight, and so everyone's at the airport ready to greet her because she's a celebrity, and then they're so pissed, right? Because she doesn't come off the plane, and her boyfriend tries to get them to go back to the airport. A week later, they're like, nah, no, we don't trust this woman anymore, right? They were very dismissive of her too. It was very possible to be dismissive of her in her time period. So I'm writing. It turns out there's an archive in Dallas, Texas, that keeps all of what it collects, and the people do these things. It collects the schedules of airplanes, so I can actually see how long she was stuck in Sao Paulo, Brazil, before she could take the next plane out to Chile, and sort of try, because people say different things and their memories are not, are faulty. So I can try to figure out who should I believe in this particular case, this one or this one, based on a schedule that, the other nice thing is with all of our technology, and librarians and our archivists are they're the nicest people. They're just sort of there to help. So someone will, of course, scan the schedule I'm looking for and send me it so I can kind of peruse and see when she could leave. So that kind of level of obsession I do admit to, but I do think somehow it made me feel safer. It's hard to say this is what happened about someone else's life, and I think I'm really clear when I don't know, but I think I do know a lot at this point because I wrote the book. So there you go. So, but yeah, passion, maybe a little obsession, yeah, and I guess my question in my life now is what's my next passion, which it's not a bad place to be. I kind of like it. Yeah, I'm kind of happy.
Fair enough.
So there's that.
Yes. Where was the furthest you traveled to from where you're originally from?
Oh my goodness. Well, so my father was a professor, and he did this project when I was between the ages of 4 and 5. We traveled for 7 months, and we, as a family, I had an older sister who was 6 and turned 7, and I was really jealous. She actually had a birthday on the trip, so she got, older sister, she got a real camera, and I got a little camera. She got all the real presents because my birthday didn't fall during the 7-month period. But anyway, that's what 4-year-olds think about or remember. We traveled for 7 months, and we spent 1 month in each country, and one was Mexico, And then we went to Holland, and then we went to, I want to say, India, Nigeria, and Japan. And I don't know which one is the farthest from California, to be honest. I'm guessing India, maybe Nigeria. That's really embarrassing. I'm not good at world geography. But that was probably the farthest I've ever been from where I was born or raised. And I really wish that I could do that trip now, because children's memories are really different than, they're just completely like, I remember the pool at the hotel, things like that. I remember, but we played with, which is probably very universal at that point. We played with Matchbox cars. We liked those little cars, and I guess they were easy to travel with too. Things like that. But I also do remember, like, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity of seeing the Taj Mahal, but that is something you'll remember even if you're little, like, just because it's out of marble. It's like phenomenal. Like, it's hard to explain how beautiful that building is, right? It's made out of marble, but it has the most intricate tiny little flowers on it, which of course a kid would appreciate. So things like that
Yeah.
too, I do remember. I remember things like that. And I remember that Santa Claus in Japan had Asian eyes. He looked like he was Asian, and that made a real impression on me. So there was that too.
That's good.
Yeah.
Have you met anyone famous?
Yeah, I have. I once had dinner with Jackson Browne and Daryl Hannah, an intimate dinner of about 10 people. And Daryl Hannah would be the more famous one. Jackson Browne is a musician that turns out not everyone knows who Jackson Browne is, which surprises me because of who, my generation. But Daryl Hannah is more famous. I think she's still famous. The only movie I can think of right offhand is Splash, which was, again, shows my age, but she was famous at the time. They were together at the time. And we were at the dinner because Jackson Browne had befriended this Nicaraguan musician who was visiting LA, and we were friends with him too. So we were invited to this very exclusive dinner in a restaurant in Brentwood, and I didn't know what was going to happen at the end because I didn't know if we'd get the bill and then we were supposed to pretend to offer to pay for it, right? And I had, it was one of those restaurants where the salad was a separate price from other things, right? Like everything added up. And I didn't know how the etiquette was going to be, but it turns out when you're that rich or famous, you don't ever see a bill. It just doesn't happen. We don't know what happened to the bill, but we never saw a bill. And we were in a back room because when you're that famous, you can't eat with everybody else, I guess, because you'd be bothered a lot, probably. So that is my story of having dinner, not just meeting, but having dinner with someone famous. And usually when I tell this story, I flip my hair, so I look like I'm really boasting. And I have friends that to this day will say, "Did you know that Erika had dinner with Daryl Hannah?" Because I like telling the story, and they think it's funny.
Well, nice.
Did you know who Daryl Hannah was? Because I mean, I don't know how the world works anymore. Everyone seems to know certain things and not other things.
I have no idea.
That's so funny. She's a famous actress. She has blonde hair, skinny. That's like 40% of all actresses. And her name is Daryl Hannah. The last movie I can remember her being in is Splash, which was about a mermaid. You have to Google her, okay? Promise me.
All right.
Do you know who Jackson
Yes.
Browne is?
No.
Running on Empty? You did know Jackson Browne.
No, I do not know.
You do know. Oh, Jackson Browne is a musician. He did Running on Empty. Okay. Google Jackson Browne. Fountain of Sorrow. Beautiful song. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I'll
They're
make a note
both
of that.
famous. They're both, you could, if you go, yeah, they're pretty famous. Wow. That was a total, let me think of who else, let me think if I've met anyone famous that you have actually heard of.
Okay.
This is terrible. Let's see. My parents once shook hands with Ella Fitzgerald. You know who Ella Fitzgerald is, right?
Ella Fitzgerald.
Singer. Incredible jazz singer.
Maybe.
Oh my
Maybe.
God. I'm trying to think of what song she'd be famous for, but she's famous for every song. She's the voice of the 20th century. Just go, velvet, most beautiful. Oh, forget Jackson Browne. Forget Daryl Hannah. Google Ella Fitzgerald. No, don't Google her. Just listen to her all day long. My grandchildren are singing a Tisket a Tasket. You could Green and Yellow Basket. Just anything. She sang with Louis Armstrong. I mean, yeah, Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. What more can I say? Okay, we are. So tell me someone that you think is famous, so that I can see if I know who they are.
Okay. Well, this is going to be quite the long shot. I can remember there's so many famous people that I've actually met in person in the past. One of them I've known like for a while, although she went to my sister's school. We did meet each other doing some performance this holiday this holiday thing at a theater in my city just before lockdown happened for
Hmm.
COVID, and she is currently acting on Heartstopper, the Netflix series, and also Doctor Who.
Okay. And her name?
Yes, her name is Yasmin Finney.
Yeah. See, I don't know her.
Fa- I can't argue. I don't know much of the people you've met that are
So this
famous,
is
so I
sort of,
don't blame you.
what do you think of this world that we could be like, in some ways connected? I mean, someone put us together for half an hour, and it's a little strange, isn't it? That we don't. I mean,
Yes.
the Violeta Parra part, the part about the book, that's my whole goal is for other people to know her. So I'm not surprised you don't, and I'm actually think it's kind of fun to talk to people who don't. I mean, that's kind of the whole point, right? But the other
Yeah.
stuff, I do think we live in strange times. That there's no. I wonder how long it's going to take for us to actually, the 6 degrees of separation. I bet you we know someone in common. I just don't know how long. It might take us a really, really long time to find that person.
Yes.
But had you traveled to the States often?
I've never been to the States, not once in my life.
Wow. Wow. Can I ask you what's the farthest you've ever been from where you were born?
Yes, so the furthest I've traveled to, every year when I was young, me and my family would visit family in Brazil in the
How
city called
fun.
Goiânia.
I don't know where that is. Where is it in Brazil? Do you know the state?
Yes, it's the state of Goiás. It's in the very
Goiás.
center of Brazil. It's actually the state that encompasses Brasilia, the
Oh,
country
sure.
capital.
Sure, sure. Did you get to see that's a strange city I've seen. I mean, I've just seen pictures, but I think that must
Yeah,
be a
I've been
very
I've been to
yeah,
Brasilia, and
yeah,
the way they've built those houses,
yeah,
yeah, it looks organized,
yeah.
but yeah, there's variations at the same time, and just in how they look.
It's weird because I think it was trying to be futuristic when it was built, and now it feels a little just not, right?
It feels dated now.
Yeah. Oh, I love Brazil. So you get to go there often. I mean, you've been there very often.
Yeah,
Do you
when I
speak
was
any
young,
Portuguese?
I understand a few basic Portuguese phrases,
Uh-huh.
but that was about it.
See, I speak Portuñol, which is what people who speak Spanish speak when they communicate in what they think is Portuguese. It's a mixture of the two, but it's so
Ah,
similar. We can actually understand each other. It's not a problem.
yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
I was once in a bar in New York, and I actually studied Portuguese, so I was very proud because I was in the bar, and the whole evening I spoke Portuguese with the Brazilian bartender. So proud of myself. And the next morning I woke up and realized she probably thought she was speaking Spanish to me. Like we were both just trying to, I thought I was speaking Portuguese, but in fact I was speaking like Spanish with throwing in some Portuguese words, and she was probably doing this. That's
That's
probably why we
crazy.
understood each other. Yeah, it's sad,
Yeah,
but
it
it's
makes so
probably
much
what happened.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh well. But it was a great evening.
it sure was.
Yeah. Enjoyed it. Well, that's interesting. Okay,
Yes,
so
it
should we
is.
try to find a famous person that we know in common?
Yeah.
Okay, let's think. Musicians. Okay, well, it has to be someone we've met. So this is really getting hard. This is tricky.
Yes, this is a challenge.
Oh, I've met Billy Bragg, and he's English. I mean, I don't know. I was backstage and he was in the same room. Is that the same as meeting someone?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, I mean, that's close.
It's close enough,
I
actually.
probably
Yeah.
said hello to him. He probably said hello to me. I'm almost sure he must have said hello to me. Not by name or anything. So you must know who Billy Bragg is.
Billy Bragg.
Billy Bragg, oh my God. He's an English
Oh my God.
rock singer. Oh my God. He sings, what does he sing? He sings,
Is he a solo artist or in a
he's a
band?
solo artist, but he plays sometimes with a band and I can't remember the name of it. But, well, who does he play with? I can Google. Can I Google while I'm talking? I'm very nervous.
Yes, you can Google.
Okay, I'm gonna Google while I'm talking and see what the name of the band that Billy Bragg plays with. But Billy Bragg is the famous guy. The band won't be famous. Let's see. Billy Bragg and Waco? Bragg. Is it Waco? Maybe not. Wilco. Wilco. Does that sound like anything you know?
No,
Okay, that's so funny. My
it is.
God.
Yes.
Oh, this is terrible. Okay, so that's the only famous British person I've at least been close to.
Yeah.
Like in the proximity of. Okay, other famous people. Okay. I don't know if I can remember. Ryan O'Neal, he's a famous actor. I was working in a pharmacy and I don't recognize faces. And I guess he came in. Yes, Ryan O'Neal. He's an American actor born in Los Angeles. I'm going to tell you movies he was in. Let's see. Ryan O'Neal was born in Los Angeles. He was in Love Story. Have you ever heard of a movie called Love Story? It was made in 1970. Let's see. A
No.
Bridge Too Far, The Driver, Barry London, Paper Moon, What's Up Doc. These are all his movies. Bones. He was on this. He was on the Fox television series Bones. Okay, none of this is ringing a bell. Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay, well, he was in the pharmacy and supposedly I served him, but I didn't recognize him because afterwards everyone figured out that I was the person who served him because I was working in the pharmacy. Okay, we're real. Oh, Farrah Fawcett. So she was with him supposedly. Farrah Fawcett. This is not ringing any bells. How old are you?
I'm 23.
Well, that explains everything. You're a year
Yeah.
younger than my son.
Wow,
So
okay.
he should be on your podcast. You would have so much, you would have all sorts of people together. Oh my goodness! Can we do this again, and I'll just have him on it? Be on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be pretty
I
cool.
think it'd be pretty funny. We should do that. He's an artist too. He can promote his art. See, we all have
Nice.
things. We all have things to share. Oh my God. Okay, we're gonna get David on your show. Do you know how to contact me? I'm gonna hold you to this.
Well, other than the email that's attached to the Calendly form to get you on here,
Yeah. Well, that
that's
would
the
be
only
fine.
content we have.
Well,
Yeah.
that works, doesn't it? It works fine. So
Yeah, of
yes,
course,
okay.
absolutely.
My son's name is David Verba, and he is a year older than you, but he just turned. I don't know when your birthday is. You could be less than a year apart. So there you go. Because he just turned 24, and he's from the States, so you guys would have a lot to talk about. And then we'd have to see if you guys know anybody in common. But
All right.
I'm guessing you would, right? Don't you think you would too?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fun. So do you just do you have, because he's pretty random, would you have a random person on your show?
I'm all for random.
He is too. That would
Great.
be kind of perfect. And
Brilliant.
I'll make him promise that he talks about my book too.
Okay.
Oh, that's very funny. Oh, good. So we have a
Yes.
plan. Okay. I don't know. I hope he likes the idea. That's pretty funny. Yeah. What's
Yes.
the time difference? How are you right now?
All right. So as of now, it is.
Okay. So what made you? I'm sorry. Now I'm going to start interviewing you because I know how old you are. What made
Yes,
you
I
be?
know.
How does this happen? Like, how does one become at 23 a podcaster? And how many years? You've been doing this for a while.
Yes, I've been doing this for nearly 3 years.
Nearly 3 years. And so what made you think that you would want to share your thought? I mean, I just find it fascinating. Like,
Yeah.
how did you start and what made you want to do this?
All right. So the story goes back to a defunct social media platform. Have you heard of Vine?
I have heard of Vine. They were very short. See, because I have a son your age. That's why I know about Vine.
Yeah,
And when
that
Vine
makes sense.
disappeared, he was upset because it was
Yes.
like different than everything else. And also it disappeared, didn't it? Vine didn't keep stuff. Am I right that it disappeared after
No,
it showed?
it got shut down by
Uh-huh.
Twitter, who owned it
Uh-huh.
at the time.
Uh-huh.
And do you know the guy that made Vine?
No. Tell me. But I'm sure my son does. Go ahead.
All right. So the name of that guy is Dom Hoffman.
Okay.
And when Vine got shut down, Dom Hoffman was furious. He was outraged. He was angry at this decision. So he did all he can to kind of bring back Vine under a different name. He wanted to call it V2. However, since Twitter owns the naming rights to it, he can't call it that. So he went back to the drawing board and came up with a different name for a new social media platform that he was going to run. It was called Byte. And
Byte.
that name stuck for a very, very long time.
And then, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so Byte was the name he chose, and somewhere around late 2019, there were a couple of beta testing for the Byte app to ensure that everything's working properly before public launch. I was one of the beta testers, and there's a thing called the Byte Community Forum, which was one of the backbones to Byte's success, and the reason why the Byte community, even to this day, remains very strong. So when Byte
And you were
got
part of it. You were
Yes,
part of that
I was
community.
I was
Got
part of it for a very long time. And when Byte launched January 24th, 2020, a lot of the media mainstream were all talking about it for like 3 weeks, and then the numbers just dipped down.
Oh,
But it's not the end of the world.
yeah.
The numbers went back up again during the summer of 2020 when then President Donald Trump said that he was going to ban TikTok for I don't know what reasons, but he was going to say he's going to do it, but that got dropped, and then here we are again today, as of this recording. Like, now, in a couple of weeks' time, TikTok's going to be banned for good, and yeah, but anyway, so first time round, TikTok was attempted to be banned. People in the US were like, oh my gosh, TikTok's going to get banned, where are we going to go? And a lot of people were looking at different alternatives. It was the one that a lot of TikTok users in the US were fleeing to, because
Uh-huh.
the biggest reason is the fact the same guy that made Vine, Dom Hoffman, was also the same guy that created Byte.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, with that name recognition, that's the reason why people came over to Byte.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the numbers stayed up pretty well for a few months, but it came at a price that one of the US TikTok users that fled over to Byte, well, before the TikTok wave, majority of Byte's users were either millennials or Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of older adults that used Byte, even in the beta stage.
Not quite baby boomers, though. When you say older adults.
There were actually a couple of baby boomers on Byte as well, but mostly millennials and Gen X.
So I need to know, because I'm confused now. What are you? You're not either of those?
I am Gen Z.
Gen Z after Gen X. Got it. Okay. And my son would be Gen Z also if he's your age?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. So then what happens? So I didn't mean to interrupt your story. I just want to make sure I knew who I was talking to. Okay.
All right. So when when Byte gained a lot of numbers again, with US TikTok users fleeing over to Byte in thinking they would get shut down, the majority of those US TikTok users were Gen X, which is the same generation that I'm from. And the issue is that most of the Gen Z TikTok US users, they were surprised to see there were a lot of older adults on the app, and yeah, they did not give the millennials or Gen X of Byte a very good time. There was a generational divide, and there were a couple of fallouts and outbursts, but eventually we came to our differences and just find ways to tolerate our differences.
Uh-huh.
But of course, the reason I mention this is because Byte's the reason why Byte was the platform where I would meet a guy from Scotland who ran this content creator group that primarily used Byte as a home base to post content of different niches.
Uh-huh.
We had our own podcast called the Team Sketch Podcast. Team Sketch is the name of the creator group, and over time we did the Team Sketch Podcast. We were making episodes, doing pretty well, and somewhere in 2021, I think it was December 2021, the guy from Scotland, he came up to me saying, you did pretty well with your podcast. I'm just wondering, do you want to start your own podcast?
And
like,
that was you. You were the
yeah, that was me.
Wow.
Yeah, he asked me if I want to start my own podcast, and I said, yeah, sure. Now, at first, I didn't know how to do a podcast, so I looked up on Google on how to make a podcast, what are the best platforms to do it on, and once I got the gist of it, I was good to go. Other than the fact, a couple of fun questions to ask just to fill the time. But after that, I was fully certain I was ready to go. And
that was 3 years ago now.
Yes, that was nearly 3 years ago.
Nearly 3 years ago. Wow. And so, and can I ask, like, do you go out? Are you always on your computer? Like, what is the rest of your life like? Because this seems like you do a lot of shows, right? I mean, this must be time consuming.
Yes. Well, it's not actually that time consuming, because thing is, although I do get tons of guests to actually appear on the podcast, I usually record like roughly 30 minutes with them.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I also record other different type of episodes where it's just me and the other regular co-host talking on what goes on in the world.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about that because I listened. Excuse me. So first of all, when you talk about older adults, and I think this is very healthy, you know that I'm way, way older than the older adults you're talking about, right? That we've established that, right? Okay. So I went on. This is my first podcast. I think your audience might not know this, but you now know this, and now your audience knows it too. Never been on a podcast before. Don't really listen to podcasts. No, don't be offended. But I did listen to one of yours. It was the one, and it said El Salvador, and I teach Latin American history, so I'm like, I know about that. So I listened to that one, and I think you should have me back on your show so I can talk to you about Bukele and Hitler, because I think I have another perspective. than you. And
Fair
I
enough.
would love to share it with you. So now you need to have your son, my son, on your show because you'd have a lot in common. And I think that you would both really
Yeah.
enjoy it. But I think you have to have me back so I can talk about El Salvador and Hitler. And I don't know much about Hitler. I know more about El Salvador. But I mean, know something about Hitler. Let's put it that way. So,
Okay.
I'm putting that out there as well. Because I would have loved to be in dialogue with you and your friend. Do you call him a friend? He's your co-host on that particular
Yeah,
show.
co-host.
So if you wanted to revisit either of those topics, I have things to say.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, all right. So now you know how to get in touch with me, right? So you're gonna.
Yes.
I'm holding you for two things. Is that good that am I holding you publicly for it? I don't know. This is not live, right? So it's not like
It's not live.
you could change your
so-
mind. Sorry,
Well,
but I would
actually,
love it. I
I'll
would
actually,
really
I'll
love
actually
it.
yeah, actually, I'll actually want to take on that offer. I want to, although I'm busy. Although at this time I'm actually getting bored with just sitting around watching social media all day. So I would like to do something else in the meantime.
I would love that. That would mean a lot to me.
Yes.
Because otherwise I'll be talking to you in my head, and that's not healthy for either of us. Well, certainly not for me. And it's not really a dialogue. So I would love to have a dialogue with you. That means a lot to me. Okay,
Yes.
that sounds good. And do you get really busy around the holidays, or you're not? You don't have a Thanksgiving right now. You're not in England. There's nothing happening right this week.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think I get a lot of guests coming over during particular holidays.
Uh-huh.
I think it's any time that isn't within the holiday periods that I do get typically more guests than I would have.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, we can figure something. You know how to get a hold of me, so I would really love
Yes.
that. And I was going to say one other thing. Oh, I heard that in England, you guys, the Christmas Day there's a wrapping day. Like, how does it done there where you are?
Yeah, it's called Boxing Day.
Boxing Day, yeah. And
Well,
what?
Boxing Day is the day after Christmas Day, so that's
Why is it
December
after?
26th.
But why is it
Well,
after?
Well, last thing I can remember, that the history behind Boxing Day is like a day of cleaning up the mess that was made the day before, which was Christmas Day. Because Christmas Day is a fun celebration where we get to do all fun stuff and activities. Given how much mess is made, surely there has to be a way to dedicate time to clean up all the mess, because you never know how much mess is going to be. I'm not saying that everyone in the UK is messy like that.
Yeah.
However,
Some
it
people-
is very eventful.
Uh-huh.
Christmas Day is very eventful in the UK, so
Uh-huh.
surely they thought, why not just make another day after Christmas Day dedicated to just tidy up the messes or throwing away cardboard boxes from the presents that was wrapped up like weeks before. That's at least all I know. Haven't looked into Boxing Day all that much, but that's just my broad knowledge of it.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So you say, I thought it was a day when you wrapped things, but actually you're throwing away all the wrapping. That's interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
because again, Christmas is very eventful in the UK, so surely there has to be a day to like
Recover.
tidy stuff up and
Yeah.
recycle things and just continue and prepare for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Uh-huh. Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. Well, I look forward to it. I think that'll be a great, and I really do think, I think you'd really enjoy my son. He's very, he's funny. You know how, I don't know if you know this, but here in the United States, I think of the English as very funny with a really beautiful, dry sense of humor. That's what we call it, English humor, right? Or British humor, whatever we call it. But I don't
Yes,
know,
true.
so, and, we all just are, my son is funny too. He's very quirky. So I think you guys might really enjoy talking together anyway. But also the most important thing, and I hope I'm right, I think you'll actually be able to find people you know in common, like famous people, which I think is really funny that we've completely failed. I don't think that you don't like. Probably Ella Fitzgerald is the one that. Do you know who Louis Armstrong is?
Louis Armstrong.
He's
I've
the
heard of A.
trumpet
Armstrong.
player. I know, no, yeah, no. This is the trumpet player, Louis Armstrong. So anyway, these are jazz greats. So anyway, I don't know in terms of like fame. I would bet you Ella Fitzgerald is the most universally well known, and you don't know. I just find that wonderful and scary. So I think it's going to be fun. It'll be a fun experiment to see if my son knows people in common with you, which I'm guessing you'll know like hundreds, but we'll find out. So that'll be fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is all we have for this episode. It was great having you on, Erika, talking about celebrities, your history of Latin America, and of course, whatever we just discussed. It's been great.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to being on again, but also my son meeting you. All right.
Yes.
Take
me
good care
too.
then.
You too.
All right.
And until next time.
All
Stay
right, sounds
tuned
good.
for more.
All right. Bye bye now.